What happened to every show that copied Gumball by Gumball Universe? Let's check it out.
Accused of copying Gumball, with similar elements such as animation, characters, writing, and so much more. So today, we're gonna go through all these Gumball clones and see what happened to them, how similar they really are to Gumball, and where they are today. Starting with the most infamous one, Miracle Star, which follows the life of a goat named Meowly Shing, and his talking pet frog Guagua.
Yeah, it was an exact Chinese copycat.
And they think just because they like different like media regulations and stuff, they like, oh yeah, we can copy it. They will never know.
Because Warner Brothers sued and they made fun of it in Gumball.
But instead of producing a somewhat new and original show, the creators saw the success of the amazing world of Gumball and tried to make a knockoff version with their own versions of the Gumball characters. And they didn't even try to hide it. This show just blatantly copied entire scenes from Gumball, only swapping out the characters for ones they actually.
It's insane.
That's
literally
crazy.
Bro, it was like bar for bar copy.
Actually owned. For example, one scene they copied came directly from the first episode of Gumball, titled The DVD. In that episode, Nicole reminds Gumball to return a DVD of alligators on a train before they get fined. At first, Gumball tries to talk his way out of it, but after seeing Nicole punch the wall because of her full anger, he quickly agrees to return it. But in the Miracle Star version, the exact same scene is played, the only difference being their characters. But this isn't the only time Miracle Star copied Gumball scene by scene. If you search for comparison videos on YouTube, you will find multiple clips of Miracle Star
traced it, bro.
They said y'all did the work for us,
bro, and copied it.
Damn. Did they have any like success over there?
No.
So it just
like it started. I think it started doing well
until they got caught.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Directly copying Gumball, with the only real difference being the character designs. But even the characters themselves weren't unique. The family was simply swapped out with different animals, with Anais being the only one not having a counterpart, possibly due to China's former one-child policy, which restricted most families to only having one child, as well as boys being favored over girls in China. Other characters were also given counterparts. Carrie was replaced by a pot of broccoli. Masami's design remained mostly the same, with the only change being her color, and Bobbert was swapped out for their own robot. Instead of taking the boring approach and suing Miracle Star, Cartoon Network thought it'd be fun to make fun of the whole situation in an actual episode.
I thought Warner Brothers did to him, because the show got taken off the air.
Never know. Maybe it
called The Copycats. And this episode starts with the Wattersons grocery shopping in the exotic food section. Gumball and Darwin make fun of strange items, but as they walk away, their counterparts, Chi-Chi and Ribbit, appear and
the crazy
begin
part is they look better.
They look way better,
Yeah, the Chinese version animation sucks.
Repeating what Gumball and Darwin have said, Chi-Chi and Ribbit are versions that the Gumball team made up that's supposed to look like a reference to Miracle Star's characters, but they most likely only took this approach for legal reasons, because they didn't want to be labeled as copycats themselves for using it in this episode. At home, Gumball discovers that their counterparts are Chinese TV stars profiting off the copied versions of the Wattersons episodes. Like the DVD as previously mentioned, they do get a little laugh from their counterparts' description. All of them except for Anais, who feels left out because she doesn't have a doppelganger. Because
of the former law.
Read it. What is it?
Woman no right to celebrate in Republic.
obviously they don't like daughters in China, but little did the Wattersons know this would actually end up saving them later in the episode. Fast forward a little bit and they find out that they're copying everything they do. So trying to stop them, they decide to fight against their copycats. But it's pretty much an even match because they're all just using their own moves against each other. Then Anais points out that the copycats aren't really trying to be evil, they're just lacking originality. So the family breaks into a song encouraging them to find their own style and be themselves. But that doesn't work, and the copycats immediately post their own version of what happened. As a last-ditch effort, the Wattersons put their own lives at risk, doing the most dangerous stunts, hoping they kill off their copycats. However, that doesn't work, so they take it to the next level and get on a burning truck that's going towards an...
This show's awesome. It just seemed, like I said, I never actually watched
the episode. Great show.
But so just hearing about it so much and seeing what they do, this this is genius approach to stuff, bro.
This show had me in tears. I always talk about it. It's the episode where they thought Nicole was cheating on Richard. And so Gumball is like they're having a whole imagination scene of how they are going to break in Nicole's room and get on the computer. And he did all this elaborate stuff. And when he actually did it, it was nothing like what he imagined. I was in tears.
Yeah, it's funny.
Unfinished bridge. At first, it seems like they're completely screwed, but Anais uses her big brain and thinks of disconnecting the tank from the truck, helping them, well, not die. But without an Anais of their own, the copycats fall to their demise, being the end of the copycats. After the episode aired, Miracle Star received tons of backlash, having a 1 out of 10 rating on IMDb, leading to its cancellation in 2017. But Miracle Star wasn't the only show that tried to copy Gumball. Back in 2009,
there's over/under on there being the Indian version.
Under.
Or
I don't think so. I think all the rest are going to be American made, and I think people classify shows as Gumball, like Gumball style of show, but Gumball wasn't the first to do its style of show as well as animation, because all, like for example, Gravity Falls is drawn. The characters have a similar face structure. So, Steven Universe has a similar face structure to the characters of Gumball. So a lot of shows can be they could try to say it's Gumball's art style, but I don't think it'll be an Indian version.
There was a show called Pinky Malinky, which follows the main character who's also called Pinky Malinky, who's just trying to fit into a human world. That's pretty much it. He has two best friends, JJ and Babs, who are always by his side. At first glance, it's pretty easy to notice that the animation style is quite similar to the Amazing World of Gumball, and there's actually a reason for that.
It actually looks very...
It doesn't look similar to me. Yeah, it doesn't look similar at all.
The show's creator, Christopher Millard, worked as a storyboard artist on Gumball in season 1 and a writer for season 2. And you can tell this by looking at the very first episode of Pinky Malinky called Snacks, which starts in the Foodman Market Mart, where Pinky explains how important the snack pop-ins is.
This show is, no, it's not like Gumball. This show is like, it almost feels like a reality TV show. My little brother was watching. Yeah.
So you actually seen that?
Yeah, it took me a minute. It does not remind me of Gumball at all.
Is to the town of Snackenham, and how much it impacted his life. But soon, his friends discover that pop-ins are being discontinued, which causes chaos throughout the city. When Pinky hears the news, he inflates like a balloon and bursts into the air. Immediately, it's clear that Pinky doesn't have the same physical limitations as his human friends. His body is extremely stretchy and aggressive, used for tons of visual gags. He can stretch incredibly far.
I feel like this one's a stretch. He might have worked on the show as a storyboard artist as well as written for the show, but it doesn't make this a Gumball clone.
He might be tying it in some kind of way. Maybe they copied the storyline or something.
Maybe.
Shrink in size, and basically do things that no human could, which is very similar to the exaggerated movements of many Gumball characters.
That's cartoons in general.
That said, these wacky stretch gags aren't special to Gumball.
Okay.
Plenty of animated shows like SpongeBob, Animatics, Tom and Jerry, and so plenty of animated shows like SpongeBob, Animatics, Tom and
Animatics.
Animaniacs. This dude doesn't know cartoons.
That's what you're going with?
This dude doesn't know cartoons.
Jerry, and so much more, use a similar format where the main character can do a bunch of movements and stuff that can't be replicated in reality TV shows. Also, in a 2009 pilot of Pinky Malinky, Pinky has always been a character who can transform and do a lot of things with his body. All before Gumball was even a thing, because Gumball was created in
what was the reason of even giving us the description of the first episode? I thought he was gonna tie the first.
2011, which means that Pinky Malinky was never intended as a copy of Gumball, but because of the timing, Pinky was seen as a ripoff. But the similarities don't stop there. One of Gumball's standout traits is its used mixed animation styles.
Again, it's not
the first to do it.
Yes, Chowder. Yeah. Chowder is one of the pioneers of mixing. Yeah, okay, this is
from 3D to puppets to live action characters, you name it, and they've done.
Annoying Orange.
Yeah, Annoying Orange.
Guess who's back again with gamer subs. What's up, Chad? You might be asking how How did Kyle McGregor get here? You're asking too many questions. The boys over at InternetCity have teamed up with Gamersubs. If you go to gamersubs.gg/InternetCity right now, you can get 10% off. I'm talking flavors like raw meat, guacamole, gamer fun. And these two right here, we got the nuclear station and chug juice. You either go, or I'm gonna go with you. Guess who's back again!
On it, which is what makes Gumball so unique. Pinky Malinky, while sticking to mostly basic character designs, isn't afraid to experiment with different animation styles. For example, in the beginning of the episode Change, there's a little gag moment where Pinky, Malinky, and JJ turn into real-life versions of themselves, with Pinky becoming an actual hot dog and JJ turning into a girl version of himself.
Again,
I think this is a situation of more of like
It's just because of the writer.
They're copying, yeah, just because of the writer, and they're doing the meta that Gumball just so happened to also do, but they're just so happen to be one of the most popular ones.
yeah, I think this one just falls to timing.
Yeah.
This is
The era.
However,
Yeah,
you could say that Christopher Miller didn't try to copy Gumball, but he instead took inspiration and learned from his experience and time working at the show. I would end it here, however, one of the characters from Pinky Malinky seems to be an exact copy of another character in the amazing world of Gumball. That character being Babs. This is definitely a stretch, but think about it.
At least you know, okay.
She's basically Darwin if he were human and girl. They both wear green and orange. There.
Spit it out there.
Man, I was really looking forward to this.
It started off hot though.
It started off
hot though,
really
type beat.
good.
You know what I'm saying? Still got 2 more shows.
Yeah, let's
2 more shows to see.
Nice,
see it, you know?
supportive, and serve as a friend for the main character. It's possible that Babs was designed as a reference to Christopher Millard's previous work, for something fans could point out and laugh at, but she's not. She's a major support character who appears in multiple episodes, and when a character is similar not only in design but also in personality traits, it stops feeling like a funny cameo and starts feeling more like they took Darwin, changed his gender, and called it a day. So, is Pinky Malinky a ripoff of Gumball?
Because I
Well,
can see like, all right, I'm gonna take inspiration, but instead of making it the brother, I'm gonna make it the friend. Instead of making it a boy, I'm making it a girl. Instead of a fish, it's a human. I can see it being a possibility, and since it was the same dude, you never know.
But also, you even yourself don't believe it.
oh, I don't think so. Despite its many similarities, of course, there are going to be parallels in animation, plot, and character dynamics when one of Gumball's original creatives is behind the show. But
It's
that
bound to
doesn't
happen
necessarily
in some
make it
form or
right.
fashion.
It's okay to take inspiration from something you helped create, as long as you bring something new to the table.
Which they did.
Take Rebecca Sugar. For example, before creating Steven Universe, she was one of the main writers and storyboard artists for Adventure Time, another really popular show. But instead of copying Adventure Time's characters, plot, and animation style, she used what she learned from the experience and built something original.
If I remember correctly, Rebecca Sugar was related to the guy that made Gumball some way. I could be wrong.
That's why Steven Universe became such a success. It had lovable characters, an interesting story, and different animation. There's a difference between being inspired by something and copying it. To quote Gumball himself, be your own you, try something
I
new,
don't
and
think that
find
was
your own
copy.
things to do.
It's not.
And that
It
quote will
seems
be
like a
important
whole
for this
different
next
story.
show we're going to talk about. Just
He described that whole first episode to not tie it to nothing.
Yeah, nothing tied to it.
Nothing tied to
It's-
take
it-
episode 1 and then it just didn't tie
Bro,
it.
it doesn't fit. Pinky Malinky's are different. It's completely different.
keep that in mind. But to answer the last question, what happened to Pinky Malinky? Well, it seems that Pinky Malinky was canceled. Though there's no official news that the show was canceled.
Maybe
The
it
show
was
was completed
shit
for
show made by
years, but it
Netflix.
didn't release until 2019. With all that time the show was finished, the people behind it probably quickly moved on. Not only that, but when the show was first announced, it immediately got backlash for supposedly being a knockoff of Gumball, which put the final nail in the coffin for another season. And since we're talking about Netflix,
he could have pulled this from the people. Like maybe he saw backlash for it and was like, "Oh, they comparing it to Gumball."
Yeah, maybe. But even then, this, as a real Gumball fan, this does not.
It's not that one. All right, let's see about
platform that hosted the show, they are notorious for canceling less popular shows to put more money into shows that seem more successful.
Obviously.
But another lesser known show that has also been accused of copying Gumball is Elliot from Earth. Elliot from Earth follows a boy and his mom who are transported across the universe.
I think this list is composed of allegations from elsewhere.
Yeah, it is because Elliot from Earth reminds me of Apple and Onion meets Infinity Train.
I've never heard of either of the three.
Apple and Onion. I would take Apple and Onion as a ripoff, and it's even further from. Okay, bro, whatever. All right.
Verse. Landing in a strange world filled with aliens, far from their home planet, which is Earth, they try to find out who brought them here and why. They start building a new life on this planet and eventually meet some characters, including Mo, the talking dinosaur. Unlike other shows I've mentioned before, Elliot from Earth doesn't exactly have anything that stands out that could be considered a copy of Gumball.
Right.
One of the first things you'd probably notice while watching Elliot from Earth is how much the animation reminds you of Gumball. Both shows have the
It don't at all.
It don't at all.
It doesn't. It's not even the same shading style. It's like it's not. It's you just made a video to make a video.
There's moments where the animation really goes all out. Super detailed, almost cinematic shots you'd never expect in a cartoon.
Okay.
It really shows how much effort went into making both shows. So why do they look so similar? Well, it's not just a coincidence. They were actually made by the same UK-based branch of Cartoon Network Studios. The shared production team explains a lot.
Bro,
The two look completely different.
from shading to color representation to like, bro, even head shape. Like one looks like Adobe character. Like they use Adobe character to animate.
From fluid character animation to the detailed backgrounds,
bad
you
screen
can
recording.
totally see similar things in both shows. Not only that, but Sarah Fell, one of the producers on Gumball, actually stepped up as a creative director for Elliot from Earth, which is probably why both shows have a similar.
This book. You know how stupid that sounds. That's stupid. Just because they worked on nigga, that's like saying Brokeback Mountain because the director of Brokeback Mountain, who directed Brokeback Mountain and fucking directed Star Wars, that Star Wars looks like Brokeback Mountain because it was the same director. Not even director, same producer. Oh, he produced. That's why these movies feel. Shut up.
Somebody in the comments said, "Nah, bro, I remember them advertising Elliot for Earth as just you like Gumball. Watch this show."
No, bro.
Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't.
They advertised it when you have to remember Gumball was like the ridiculousness of Cartoon Network for a long time, right? It kept the channel afloat, right? So they ran off the dynamic of duo. They were running off the dynamic of duos. Gumball's popularity boomed off of an existing, like, oh shit, we had Adventure Time regular show. These are duo shows that are doing well. Gumball, another duo show doing well. Oh, maybe duos are the meta. That's what they're running off of. Oh, you like the Crazies and the Adventures that aren't tied together. That's every other cartoon at the time. That's how these shows were meant to be marketed.
Even then, that was cartoons before that as well.
It's not Gumball ripoffs, bro.
However, the next show accused of copying Gumball is Harvey Beaks. This show follows a bluebird named Harvey and his friends, Fee and Foe, as they
This is Sanji and Craig. This reminds me of Sanji and Craig.
explore their life in Little Bark Grove. At first glance, nothing about this show really screams.
You know what the video should have been? The show that it should have been called The Show That Tried to Copy Gumball. Talked about, and then like said, here are shows that copy other shows, starting with the show that copied Gumball. Or the video could have been shows that copied other shows, and then
Or shows that tried to replace Gumball. Yeah. That would have worked.
Seems to be a copy of Gumball. Both shows take place in different environments and both have different animation styles. styles. They are also both produced by different networks, until you realize Harvey, Fee, and Foe are similar to Gumball, Darwin, and Anais. At first glance, it might seem like they are totally different groups, but when you dive deeper into them, you can see some similarities between each group. Each trio is made up of young, adventurous characters with unique personalities that balance each other out. Harvey is the kind...
Never seen Camp Laszlo. Never seen Powerpuff Girls. We're basing what is this criteria we're basing this off of, dude?
When a show uses character with a positive outlook on life.
Thoughtful one, kind of like Darwin. Fee is the chaotic one who reminds you of Gumball, and Foe, while not as smart as Anais, kind of reflects her dumber side, as seen in—
Oh god.
So oh, I could punch something. Dude, I really like your content, okay? But you're okay, let's continue. You good?
in the episode The Goons. Not only that, but they also share similar as seen in the episode The Goons. Not only that, but they also share similar color schemes. Gumball is blue like Harvey, Fee is pink like Anais, and Foe is orange like Darwin. Speaking of Foe and Darwin and Foe both—
Question. What were the colors again, Mike? Blue, pink, and orange, right?
Yeah.
So because they're blue, pink, and orange.